right, continuing the discussion of the Biden administration's September 11th announcement of a deal to release $6 billion, that's with a B, $billion to the ruling mullahs of Iran. Many are asking why the State Department showered concessions on a country that continues to sponsor and arm terrorist groups and kill their own people. Now, the mullahs leading the country continue to gain riches selling oil to nations like China, which is, by the way, a stark contrast from the stranglehold the Biden administration has placed on the oil production and exploration of our own country. You know, how concerned should we be now that this regime will have an additional $6 billion? Joining me now to discuss this and more, Congressman Mark Alford. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee, the House Agriculture Committee, and the House Small Business Committee. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Missouri. Congressman Alford, welcome back to the program. Great to see you.
Good to see you, Tony.
All right, we just had Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin on discussing this announcement yesterday. I want to get your reaction. The fact that it came out on September the 11th, $6 billion to a regime that has been identified and labeled as a terrorist regime.
Tony, I think it's very sad. You will remember 2 years ago that President Biden wanted to pull out of Afghanistan on the anniversary of 9/11 to make a statement. What ended up happening is some people with clearer heads, I think, convinced him to get out just a few weeks earlier so it would not be on this somber occasion. And now, 2 years later, the President of the United States decides to free up $6 billion of the Iranian money, yes, true, but money that they can now use to fund terrorism. This is the #1 terrorist state in the world intent on doing away with Israel. They are ready to build a nuclear bomb to get rid of Israel. And not we, but President Biden has seen fit to release this money to further their causes.
Well, I mean, I raised this issue earlier with General Boykin. I think America must look schizophrenic on the national stage because just today, this afternoon, on the House floor, there was a discussion over a bill to put sanctions on Iran, on their missile program and on their drone program because of their human rights abuses and their terrorist activities. But on one hand, we're saying we're going to put sanctions on you. On another hand, we're giving them $6 billion.
You know, the administration came out today, the Pentagon, and I don't know who that spokesperson was. I was watching it on the plane a bit. This continued gaslighting of the American people. He would say, wait a minute, we're not giving the Iranians this money. Well, you're technically not giving it to them. It's their money, but you're freeing it up so they can take their money that they have in a pot now that they're going to use for other situations and circumstances and now apply it to terrorism. So, yes, you are freeing that. It's kind of like the whole Planned Parenthood.
You're absolutely right.
We're not funding abortions. Well, you're paying to keep their lights on. You're paying them to operate for so-called women's health care and reproductive care, which abortion is not reproductive care. So my point is you can play all the word games you want,
right?
But we've got our eye on you, President Biden. We know what you're up to, and it is not good for the world. It is not good for Israel. It is not good for the United States of America.
A perfect analogy. In fact, I'd written that down, that Title X funding, which funds family planning. It was President Trump separated so you couldn't do abortions and family planning under the same roof, the co-location rule. And of course, the Biden administration did away with that. It's the same thing. It's covering the overhead. So this money is fungible. They can move the money around, right, and it's going to give them more money to do evil. I want to get to some of the appropriations bills on defense spending, but before I get to that, one final question on this. Your biggest concern coming out of this exchange of 5 Americans, 5 Iranians, and $6 billion?
Well, look, I am very glad that 5 Americans will be coming back to U.S. soil. Don't get me wrong on that. And I think the administration tries to play off the emotions of the American people to try to get things done. I think that is wrong. Him trying to tie additional Ukraine aid now to funding relief efforts in Maui and Florida, I think that is wrong. But I will say this. This is only going to make Iran think about taking more hostages.
Yeah.
And so what are we going to tell these next 5 families?
Right.
Okay, these first 5 families, we got them back home, but now you're expendable because we are funding terrorism by releasing $6 billion to the worst terrorist state known to man.
It fuels hostage taking. We were talking about that earlier.
It does.
I want to move to the defense appropriations. We're talking about a continuing resolution. Hopefully, we'll get to these appropriations bills because there's some good things in these appropriations bills, including restricting these funds for abortion, travel, and the woke policies of the Pentagon. We've got about 45 seconds. Tell us about it.
This is so important. We get this passed, get it passed this week, one of 11 appropriations bills we still have to pass. We're going to give the military a 5.2% pay increase. We're going to beef up our funding for next generation aircraft, desperately needed to keep China at bay. We also have $9 billion in the Pacific Defense Initiative, which is so important. We've got to get this done, Tony, for the security of America.
Well, it brings some sanity back to our government through these appropriations bills. So important that these get through the process. Congressman Mark Alford, always great to see you. Thank you for your hard work on Capitol Hill on behalf of Faith, Family, and Freedom.
Thank you, Tony. God bless you.